But can I tell you what I think is the biggest culprit? And I think I'm going to get a lot of criticism for it. We are South Indians. My grandfather and grandmother lived properly till they were 82 years old. If you check their blood report and everything, it was shocking because they had triglycerides of 900. They had idli, sambar, rasam, pongal in the morning. They had rice in the afternoon. They had rice and sabzi in the evening. All the known supplements that you're talking about was not part of their diet.
Those things do add up. And then eventually you will do enough damage to the brain that cannot be reversed.
People who are into running, they just go running. People who are into gym, they are just doing gym, weight training.
Now that Elon Musk is talking about it, everybody is all saying, hold on, what is he saying, you know? And it's becoming more relevant to us because it's coming from the West.
Yeah.
Although this has always been part of our culture, right?
In my 80s and 90s, 70s, I want to beat like people who are in 20s and 30s in multiple sports. So that is what I feel like.
And it's possible.
It's possible for sure.
Every morning we hear, oh, coconut oil is good, oh, it's not good. Oh, ghee is good, oh, ghee is not good. After the COVID era and the vaccines, people are complaining, youngsters especially saying there's brain fog, but you can't suddenly remember names or think clearly.
It's not correct to say that COVID has caused it. I believe that many things happened during that one time.
Oh. Good health is priceless, but biohacking puts a very real price tag on it. Between fancy gadgets, premium supplements, and specialized diets, it feels like you need a small fortune to even get started. So, is health a privilege of the wealthy, or can anyone hack their way back to better life? So we have with us our experts who are experts in biohacking apart from their own professions. We have with us Dr. Siddharth Warrior and Saurabh Aggarwal. Let's start with you, Dr. Sid Warrior. Please tell us a little bit of what you've done so far and what your interest in biohacking is.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
So I'm Dr. Siddharth Warrior. I'm a neurologist. I'm practicing in Bombay. And over the last 4 years, I've also started creating content on YouTube and Instagram. The aim is to educate the people about the brain, about neuroscience, and through neuroscience, how can they change their habits, how can they work on their mental health. So I feel that these are things that everyone deserves to know. So that has been my journey.
Saurabh Aggarwal, you're an IIT student and you've done exceptional well. Your story matches with Three Idiots to a little extent. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Surely. So I graduated from IIT Delhi. Post that, I was very interested into adventure sports. So worked briefly with Flipkart, left the sports, left the company, and then got into mountains, did paragliding, mountaineering, various other sports, finished Ironman, and then I started my own company called Fitso, which was into sports. And in 2021, we sold this company to Zomato and then to Culfit. Post that, I was traveling 2 years around the world, figuring out what I want to do next. I joined Healthify as India president there, and it's again into health and fitness. And my life has rotated around health and fitness in general, and that is what I live, breathe, and do for my profession as well.
Excellent. So, you said you were into Ironman. It's not an easy job to do, right? Can you explain a little more about Ironman?
Yeah, so Ironman is one of the biggest single day endurance event. It's a triathlon where you have to swim, cycle, and run. You do 3.8 kilometers swimming in open water body, maybe sea or something. Then you have to cycle 180 kilometer, and then you have to run a full marathon, 42.2 kilometers.
Oh.
And you have to finish all these three elements within 17 hours to get the title of Ironman.
Oh.
And I did that for the first time back in 2014 in Sweden. For the training, I traveled across India, like to Bangalore, Mumbai, and everywhere, where I realized that most of the coaches, swimming coaches especially, because I didn't know swimming at that time, most of the coaches denied me on my face saying, hey, you cannot learn swimming as an adult. I was like 23 at that time, and they were like, as an adult, you cannot learn swimming, and you are saying 4 kilometers of non-stop swimming you want to do, it's kind of impossible task. And at last, I had to resort to watching YouTube videos and do those drills by myself in the pool.
Wow.
And that is how I mostly did it. Then, of course, I got some support from some of the coaches and people who were training at that time. And that was a very interesting journey.
Well done.
Thank
you. You know, while I was talking to you before the interview, you had said that, you know, that biohack is actually a relatively new word, but we've been doing this from much earlier.
Yeah.
So just for the sake of the audience, What is this? I'm going to ask both of you all. And what does this biohack really mean? Like for a person who's a layman, if he doesn't understand कि ये biohack का मतलब क्या है, how do we define biohack to him and what we're going to talk about today?
Biohacking is trying to change your biology in some way to improve your outcome. Whatever it is that you're trying to do can be affect our biology to make our life easier, to make ourselves more productive, to make ourselves less sick, more healthy. So traditionally, biology was understood by doctors. But there is a new revolution happening where everybody has started learning about their own body. And I feel that's a great thing because everyone should take ownership of their own body. And biohacking is part of that revolution where people are taking things into their own hands and trying to make their own life better.
I think, as per me, it's like hacking your physical and mental fitness so that you can prime in your 60 plus age and you just not have a good or larger lifespan, but actually a good health span. So that is what I think biohacking is.
Yeah, I cannot agree more because I think at one point of time the average age was supposed to be 45 or 50. Much earlier, around 300-400 years ago, life expectancy was 50 years old. If you reach 60, it was an achievement. In our Indian culture, we used to have pujas and celebrations to acknowledge that you had 60 years old, as well as you have when you reach 80 years old, right? And then you suddenly realize that 60 years old, में अगर आज किसी को, if there's somebody pass away at 60, we keep saying, oh my God, he was so young. Right? So I think the idea we're trying to explain is biohacking is going to be a very integral part of your life because now with our medical science, an average lifespan of 75 or 80 is a given, unless God forbid you have an accident. So how do you make the later years of your life more meaningful? That's what you were saying, right? Okay, after 50, 60, how do you still be considered relevant in the society that you're living in so that you're physically, mentally, and intellectually be able to contribute to it and feel that that part is not a curse, So that's what we're going to talk about, the importance of maintaining all aspects of your health at a later stage in your life so that you can achieve that by hacking your lifestyle right now to be able to efficiently achieve it. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask both of you all one common question, okay? Are there any supplements truly worth the price or is it just fancy marketing?
Supplements are meant to add some things to your body which your diet does not give.
Okay.
Now, ideally, a complete diet should give you everything that you need. Now, because different people have different lifestyles and their diets might be lacking in some ingredients, for those people specifically, you do need supplements. For example, B12. That's something that I commonly see in my practice in neurology, where, say, somebody has been having a diet that does not have enough B12, I would want to supplement it. But because that is a very specific case for a specific person, there are no supplements that I would recommend universally.
Oh.
Whether somebody needs a particular supplement or not depends on that person's needs, lifestyle, and what are the problems that they are facing.
So for a common man, no, this is very Greek to them.
Yeah.
वो बेचारा कैसा decide करेगा कि what he is lacking in
Exactly.
and how to supplement it?
For a layman, what I have felt in last 15, 20 years of my journey being healthy and fit is that two, three things are commonly missing in most of the people's diet. One is omega-3 fatty acids, right? So which you get from fish oil and you get capsules of that. So that is one of the most common thing most of the people should take. Second is the whey protein. And I think that knowledge has come very recently. So I remember when like 12, 13 years back, I used to be in college and training for these sports. None of our coach have ever told us to take protein, right? And we never thought about protein anything. Like we used to eat to just fill our stomach and to get energy, right? Now, today, people are talking about protein, and I think that's important. So, most of the people, of course, I think if you have some allergy or something specific case, then not. Otherwise, whey protein, omega-3 fatty acids, and then probably vitamin B12 and D. So, multivitamin. So, I think these three things should be like kind of a generic thing. Rest all is, I think, specific cases.
So you're saying these are generic, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to ask you something which, I've always questioned. We're South Indians. My grandfather and grandmother lived properly till they were 82 years old.
Yeah.
Okay? If you check their blood report and everything, it was shocking because they had triglycerides of 900, 800, 900, which is considered lethal right now. But the fact of the matter, Dr. Sid, is that they had idli, sambar, rasam, pongal in the morning. They had rice in the afternoon. They had rice and sabzi in the evening. It was rasam and sambar. All the known proteins that you're talking about, all the known supplements that you're talking about was not part of their diet. उनको कोई problem नहीं हुई. My grandfather had like proper black hair till he passed away. These facts that our grandparents lived like this and they lived the way they did, and the fact that the newer studies are saying this, how, that is the one that actually makes people confuses people into what do we have to follow. Now, if I'm a vegetarian, that's part of my culture, for instance. Okay? I don't know any proper source of protein that I should eat, and I'm made to feel guilty. Where is the balance in this?
I think my answer would be that what I feel is at that time there were two things. One, it's like carbs is not the enemy today, right? Most of us make carbs as enemy and protein as friend. But if you are doing a lot of movement or exercise, then of course you need carbs, right? If you are burning say 2000 calories in a day, of course you can eat 4000 calories. But if you are having a sedentary life, you're not even burning say 100 calories, especially doing any fitness activity, then you have to restrict yourself to 1800 calories. Then you have to figure out how can you maintain your protein to carbs to fiber, right? So I think that could be one of the difference. They used to do a lot of hard work at that time. Second, their diet probably will be having some natural source of protein, could be sprouts, dal or something like that, right? And they were eating in plenty. So that is where I think their protein were getting whatever is needed, that was getting supported, and carbs they were rather burning in the workout.
An important thing to add, I agree with both the points that Saurabh made. The one thing that we should focus on though is what are they not doing? What were they not doing then that we are doing now? Which is the amount of processed foods that we are having. So yes, they would eat everything that they would be eating, but the kind of processed foods that we are exposed to today and the trans-saturated fatty acids that come with it will lead to more harm. So part of the reason is A, the processed foods, and B, the amount of stress that the current modern lifestyle gives you with the lack of sleep, with the amount of light exposure at night. These are small factors that add up over many years. So yes, at that time, their nutrition might not have been ac- appropriate or balanced as per modern standards, but that also meant that they had a lot less stressors then than we do today.
I'm going to put one more factor into play right now. This is my theory, but I would like you all to weigh in on it and see if it makes any sense. One of the things that you said very correctly is what is difference of their lifestyle compared to ours, and stress and processed food is one thing. But can I tell you what I think is the biggest culprit? And I think I'm going to get a lot of criticism for it, but I have to say it because that's what I have seen in my life. I think the biggest culprit is the fridge. Because they never could keep food from even morning till afternoon. They have to make fresh food. चूल्हा जलता था, gas नहीं था. So you have to make fresh food for lunch and you have to have fresh food for dinner. I think 90% of the problem right now is not even just the processed food. The fact that we think we can reuse the oil, the fact that we think that we can put it in the fridge and eat the sambar at a later stage. Now everybody, like, we've done practical experiments to see कि freshly cooked rice and eating that with dal and sambar and seeing the glycemic index of that and see how your sugar goes up. Can I tell you a shocking fact? We've actually done it. So freshly cooked food from the market and all that, and you eat that food, the jump is about 30 to 40 points.
Yeah.
You take that rice, you cook it, you keep it overnight, and not in the fridge. I'm saying keep it overnight.
Yeah.
Slightly fermented the next day after almost 20 hours. And you mix that with food and eat, and you see the glycemic jump is only hardly 18 or 20 points.
I don't want to villainify refrigerated foods altogether because, again, because of the modern lifestyle, that has become an integral part of most people's lives. And between the two choices, cooking your own food, keeping it in the fridge and eating it would still be healthier than having frozen processed foods that you keep in the freezer and you take it out after 3 months and heat it up. Those I think are more harmful.
Yeah.
But definitely freshly prepared food has the highest nutritional value.
Good. Then that we all agree.
Yeah.
That we all, and now it's anybody's guess what the health foods are, and whether they're actually true to the fact that they are saying organic, and if it's really organic and stuff. But it's very difficult now to judge. So the people are really confused.
Yeah.
So Doc, tell me something. As a neurologist, if you had to say that anybody listening to you today, what is the one thing you must do for better a lifestyle, and one thing you should never do for a better lifestyle with respect to neurology?
So I think of it as ROI. So what is the highest return on investment for a simple action? So the highest return on investment is on sleep.
Oh,
Nothing comes close.
Huh.
So if you get good sleep, for your brain, that is probably the biggest return on investment that you get
see.
over a period of many years. So if you miss one day's sleep, fine, no problem. Your brain can recover. Your brain is incredibly resilient. But if you have had bad sleep for 2 years, 5 years, those things do add up, and then eventually you will do enough damage to the brain that cannot be reversed.
Oh.
And that is what eventually leads to things like Alzheimer's and memory loss. So good sleep would probably be highest. A second thing is making sure that you're hydrated. Very simple thing, but just making sure that you're hydrated, you're getting your 2.5, 3 liters of water every day. For the amount of effort it takes, the return on investment is magnificent. Right? And the third thing would be stress management. Now, this is tricky because people don't really know. They think stress is just a part of life. How do I avoid stress? But there are small breathwork exercises that people should be taught, and doing even 10 to 15 minutes of that regularly does add up. So these are simple lifestyle changes that I have found to be very useful for the brain.
So when we were talking, you had said the importance of sleep in what you were saying also. Do you want to elaborate on how is it possible to get that quality sleep?
No, so I think it's like, first of all, you have to understand the relevance of it. And I feel, and what I've seen is experienced also, is like when you are like sub 30, right? So in 20s, you abuse yourself a lot, right? We do all-nighters, right? In college time, in my work and everywhere, right? So we think, okay, we will like sleep by 2 a.m., wake up at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., we'll go to work again. So that's not the sustainable way. That is one. And second is, I think from the athlete perspective, I would say that I have always followed this thumb rule for myself, that whenever I'm training, if I feel like I'm like not in a good shape or good mood, or like my body is not responding, I always take rest. Like I prefer rest over pushing myself. So most of the times you see the advice is that you should push yourself, you should go hard, right? You should train, you should never let any excuse come in your way. But I feel like as an athlete, you should definitely listen to your body, and rest and sleep is very, very important. If you have missed it, probably you should miss a session rather than missing your sleep and rest. That
Oh,
is what
really?
my advice would be.
So important, because so many people think that one bad behavior can be corrected by another good behavior. So if I've lost out on sleep, let me work out so that at least I have now done something good for my body.
Oh.
But it actually harms you.
Correct.
So poor sleep followed by a workout is more stress to the body. You should skip the workout
Yeah.
if you've not had sleep.
Right.
As an actor, sometimes we have night shoots, and I hate it because people think that it's okay to shoot for 1 week at nights. It's impossible to compensate for that sleep during the day, right?
Correct.
It's next to impossible to feel the same amount of refreshment or freshness after a sleep during the day.
Yes.
Secondly, now, in our Indian culture, we always used to we talked about this before the interview, about Brahma Muhurt, which is the time between, like, in the beta state of sleep, which is between early morning, just before sunrise. Am I
3
right?
to 4:30 that time.
Yeah, 3 to 4, just before sunrise,
Correct.
right? Now that Elon Musk is talking about it, everybody is always saying, hold on, what is he saying, And it's becoming more relevant to us because it's coming from the West.
Yeah.
Although this has always been part of our culture, right? So I'm going to come to you about your biohack, but I would like you to tell us the interesting thing you said about getting up in the morning in Kerala, how the pond and
Yeah. So over the last 3 years, I've been reading about how each individual aspect of ancient Indian practices are now being studied. For example, the effect of waking up early, the effect of morning sunlight exposure, the effect of cold exposure.
and we're saying all this because this is part of biohacking.
Yes.
We're not just talking about culture. This is a biohack that we are trying to emphasize on.
So these are individual practices that are now getting more and more evidence that it is beneficial to you. It helps your body. And I was remembering that in my hometown in Kerala, it's a little village. Okay, it's called Vadkanjeri, and there is so in my native house there's a temple in front of the house and there's a pond. I remember my grandparents would wake up at 4 5. They would go to the pond and they would dip their entire body in the pond, come up, there'll be sunrise happening right there. They would pray to the sun god, come out, dry themselves, go to the temple, come back, and then start their day. This used to be the norm. Everybody would do it. And I just realized that that one practice ticks off so many of our list. So you have morning sunlight exposure, you have cold exposure, you have waking up early, you have temple visits. So technically that is gratitude journaling.
Yes, the
Thank you,
attitude
God,
of gratitude. Yes,
right?
I thought, if I might just,
Yes.
because I thought that was very spectacular because you didn't want to just go to the temple and it was not just meant for praying.
Yeah.
You had to vocally say out the slokas and stuff.
Yes.
It was also exercising your vocal cords to get the whole body to vibrate.
Yes.
For the daytime activity. Am I right?
Yeah.
And I think that gives a person what I would call survival instincts. Your peripheral, everything gets enhanced when you're that active early in the morning. You were talking about, the cold showers that you used to take in IIT, and now that they're talking about it. This you did 20 years ago, am I right?
Almost 15 years back. Yeah. So I think during college time, my friends used to joke around like this guy is idiot. Like I used to go in the morning, early morning before the class. I used to take cold shower, and if anybody has experienced the Delhi's winter 15 years back, it was like almost 0 degrees Celsius, right? And then sometimes I also used to wear half shirts in the college time, right? So that used to be crazy, but and that time I was like doing it unknowingly. Like I just used to enjoy that, and I feel less cold throughout the day because of that whole experience. Now I know it, and consciously I am doing that. I have a bathtub at home, and I used to put water to get frozen in the in a big, I would say, freezer, like deep freezer, so that I have kept. And I take cold bath like every 2 or 3 days, like in a week.
Nowadays, for all the athletes, this thing is big. The ice bucket and people actually dipping themselves on a
Yes.
daily basis is becoming quite a practice.
There are some conflicts here, though, because from whatever I have experienced, I found that cold showers are really useful, but ice baths, you have to be a bit careful about them because they do tend to be quite an acute stress to the body. And while they are very useful for muscle recovery, so if you're an athlete, if you've done some heavy workout,
right.
it helps you recover. Telling everybody that ice baths thrice a week can be an acute stress. So unless everything else in their life is quite taken care of, the stress can also do harm.
See, this is the confusion that the public has.
Correct.
What is relevant to somebody is not relevant to you. What is the real payoff of biohacking? Is it more productivity, fewer sick days, better income, or can it be all? Because there are so many information that is coming across that might not be either relevant to you or actually very relevant to you. How does a common man first decide that, and then the benefits of biohacking?
The ideal answer is all of this.
All of it, huh?
If you are healthy, you will become more productive. You will have more healthy days. You will have less sick days. You'll be able to do everything that you want to. So the goal of biohacking is health. Let's not ever forget that.
So it's all sorts of health: mental, physical, physiological,
spiritual.
Huh?
I count that also as
Very
health.
important. Okay.
So whatever makes you more healthy, and if there is something that you can do to make yourself more healthy, I count that as biohacking. So if you achieve that, then all of these things will get ticked off. The challenge is that you need to know how to listen to your own body. So a very key part of biohacking is biofeedback.
Correct.
what is your body saying might not be what somebody else's body is saying. So learning to listen to your own body is probably the first and most important part of biohacking. Because if you're not listening, how are you talking to your body?
So, what is the best way to listen?
That is where biofeedback becomes really interesting because different parts of your body talk to you differently. So your anxiety will talk to you differently. If you are feeling low, that will have a different language. If you're hungry, your hunger will tell you that you're hungry differently. Somebody else might feel thirsty. Somebody else might get irritable.
Correct.
So learning how your body is talking to you is the most important step.
At the beginning of our conversation, you had said, and I don't want to take away the steam from you, you had said something about slowing down. Would you want to tell us about that?
So this is the challenge of modern day life, which is I believe that we all have the ability to listen to our body. The problem is there is too much chaos going on. So you don't have the time to listen to your body. Your body might be telling you things, but because you are scrolling through 50 reels in a minute, because there are hundreds of emails to be answered, meetings, all of that, you simply don't have the time to listen to your body. So the thought that I got when I was talking to you before was the best biohacking is to slow down. So for me, slowing down is learning to understand what is your body saying. So at any given point of time, you are feeling some emotion. At any given point of time, maybe there are some muscles in your body that are a little tensed up, but we never realize this. And I have this experience with a lot of my patients who come with low back pain. They're sitting all day at work, hunched up over a laptop. They don't realize that their low back muscles are getting spasmed until the pain starts. But the pain is happening much down the line. Before the pain starts, your muscles have already tightened up. If you were paying attention to it, you would have realized it. But because there's so much going on, you ignore it and then you come back as low back pain. So these are small instances. Just being aware of your posture. Do you need to stretch? Do you need to drink water? Is your mouth dry? These are small things that your body tells you. If you can listen to it and if you take the right action at the right time, it will not become a major problem later.
So, slowing down helps you get these signals better, is that what you're saying?
100%.
You've been into adventure sports to a great extent, right? What do you think you've learned from adventure sports? You know, the precise moment before you jump into the abyss or take some crazy decisions.
Yeah.
What are lessons that you learned from adventure sports or just being physically active that you consider very important biohacks?
I think number one would be staying in present. So like that you learn when
Very
you are
nice.
doing something serious like an adventure sport. You have to be very focused.
Correct.
Right? You cannot miss the things. Like say if you are doing wave surfing, you have to be serious. You have to be knowing when the surf wave is coming to catch that. Right? So I think that is number one, to stay in present. And today's time, I think that is what we all are lacking because of such a short attention span, and we want to grab so many like things and so much of information within a single moment, right? So we generally miss being in present. So I think that is one. Second is in general, adventure sports also made me feel like learning new skills, and from that itself I have like that has been my ultimate goal, like why I want to stay fit, why I want to do biohacking. I feel like we all are human, right? First of all, we cannot say just care, stay healthy. It is like we need to have some kind of a carrot. That is
Correct.
what I have always felt.
Very true.
Right? And now you have to decide what is your carrot. Generally, in 20s, people have a carrot कि यार मेरे को girlfriend, boyfriend बनाना है. I have to get married, something like that, right? In your 30s, then you feel like कि okay, probably I want to do something extraordinary, maybe something beyond my work and other things, where you see a lot of people start running marathons and other things, right? In your 40s, you generally see your biomarkers start dropping, right? You do blood report and other things. You see, oh, I'm pre-diabetic, thyroid, ye, wo, right? That is where you get conscious and you start saying, okay, I have to take care of my health. So you always see there's a health, like there's a carrot, right? Which you need to have. For me, the carrot is that I, like in my 80s and 90s, 70s, I want to beat like people who are in 20s and 30s in multiple sports. So that is what I
And
feel
it's
like.
possible.
It's possible for sure. There are people today, I'm sure, like Milind Soman is doing it,
Yeah.
like you stay fit. So many people stay fit in 50s and 60s. Why not? So we have to be rather ahead of that.
I agree. I think the two big takeaways that you said. One is the fact of staying in the present. That's very important, and the fact that you have to learn a new skill.
Yeah.
I always thought one of the best ways I have found, like listening, calming down and listening to to my body, like you say. I need a carrot, like you said. Okay, and my carrot is that learning a new skill. Every year, I have made it a point, even if it's just physical or just educational or spiritual or something, learning a new skill keeps my mind far more active than me being happy with a sedentary routine. Routine is not bad, but I think that every man and woman should have the ability to try and learn a new skill.
So true. Every single skill that you learn or every sport that you try will teach you a different philosophy.
Yes. Now we've established the benefits of biohacking and the ways it can be done is what we need to talk about.
Yeah.
But there's a cost involved in it, and there are apparatuses and gadgets that help you do with it. So my question is, if someone wants to take biohacking seriously, going in all out on gadgets and supplements and therapies and lifestyle changes, how much would it cost on a monthly basis? And do you think that that is sustainable for most people?
If you have to go all in, there is currently no upper limit.
Huh.
Because every few months we are discovering a new way of listening to your own body. I'm not saying that that's not useful, but I have to clarify that most of it is useful as a researcher. We still don't know what will a common person do getting all this information. Okay. For instance, a good smartwatch today would cost you what, 30, 40,000?
Yeah.
And that will give you a lot of information. It'll give you how many steps you've walked. It'll tell you how much is your heart rate. What will you do with it? So currently, people are still figuring out that, okay, maybe 10,000 steps is a good marker. Great. Now I have something actionable to do. I want my heart rate to be at 90, 100. Now people know about zone 2 training. Now that's a useful thing, that if I have my watch and I'm cycling at a particular speed and my heart rate is between 120 and 130, that means that I'm in zone 2 cardio. That is where fat burning happens. So let me maintain myself here. That's a proper actionable item, useful, great. I think everyone should do it. But it also tells you something called heart rate variability. Now, this is one level deeper. Heart rate variability tells you how much your heart rate is changing depending on the stressor. Now, this tells you whether you are prone to anxiety, whether can you remain calm, how disciplined. There are many things that heart rate variability tells you. But we still don't really know what can we do with this information, right? So now we are in that gray area. You keep going deeper, the more information you get, you are simply overloading yourself.
I agree.
Without knowing ki karu kya main iska.
Correct.
So that is where the challenge is. So I would say that roughly getting a smartwatch or a tracker for your movement, for your sleep, for your heart rate is useful. Anything beyond that is too much at this point.
I'm going to bring it back to the cost factor because that's what we're talking about. Like, how much does it think? Like, somebody might not be able to afford even 5,000 rupees a month excess for their health. Some might be having no limits.
Yeah.
Sure.
What do you? So, do you use any gadgets? Do you use any supplements?
Right. I would definitely want to elaborate on this because I am using Garmin like back from almost 10, 12 years. When the earliest model, it was like a mini computer
I remember.
on your wrist, right? Orange color. So I used to use that. And I think there are two things which are very, very important I have seen in my journey as a amateur athlete, right? As a person who is just conscious about health and fitness. Two things. One is, of course, to take feedback, you need to use some kind of a gadget, watch or anything, right? So Garmin watch or something like that. Then second is the coach. I think coach has played a really, really important role in my life. And I feel that is what is missing, especially in India. So one thing I tell you, I think it's like everyone has an idea, right? And in startup world, it is very common. People used to say, यार मेरे पास ना $1 million idea है. अरे idea तो हर किसी के पास है. Point is about execution.
Correct.
So, like idea is like whatever we are discussing are ideas. Now, how you are going to execute is important. For that, you need to have an accountability or some accountable partner, where community comes into play, You should have a circle of like-minded people. And second is your coach part. If you have some coach who is making you accountable.
Yeah, I agree with it entirely because, and that coach should charge money because
Of course.
any advice that is coming to you for free now, uska koi value
Yeah.
hota nahi hai. I've realized that after going to all these health resorts that I go to understand how to hack and biohack, and I paid like 15, 20 lakhs, and then I'm sitting in front of them and they're telling me exactly what my grandmother said. कि आराम से खाओ, 7 बजे के बाद मत खाओ, make sure you don't drink water while you're eating food. Small things, like for example, everybody goes into the ice bucket challenge right now, right? We talk about the cold therapy and stuff. Our tradition said that you go in the morning and when you walk into the river or the pond, you enter feet first. You don't start your cold shower with the head first. I don't know if you follow that, but when you have a bath, you shouldn't start the shower on your head first.
Blood will rush.
That will completely the opposite of what it's supposed to do. So they actually have to let the cold seep in from the bottom so that your heart doesn't get a shock, your mind doesn't get a shock. So this is all part of our culture. अगर आपको कोई बोलता था कि यार grandmother is saying put your feet first, you will never listen. But a $20,000 coach per year says this is how it's good for you, then we all want to listen. So I think free advice does not have much value in our country.
Packaging is everything.
Packaging is everything, and charging for it, I think, very sad. So those things I think are very important. But I don't want to exclude people who don't have the money for these gadgets or these kind of supplements or these kind of coaches from our conversation today. So, for example, they say haldi is good for you, or like having cooked food at certain time is good for you, and not having food later on. So, as a neurologist, I'm saying if my budget is 500 rupees, what are the biohacks that you think a guy can afford in that will be effective for him? I'm going to ask you the same question.
So the good news is that biohacking can be done for free. Because biohacking essentially means listening to your body or learning what your body is saying, understanding what it means, and B, knowing what to change in your lifestyle based on what your body is telling you. This is the essence of biohacking.
Correct.
So there are some foundational things that everyone should do, and they're all for free. And if you don't do those foundational things, no matter how expensive a gadget you get or how many supplements you take, it is not going to help.
Yeah, like what you said about sleeping.
Sleep.
About, hydrating yourself.
Yes.
About not taking stress and understanding.
Stress management.
Slowing down.
Correct.
All these don't cost money.
They
These
cost
are
zero
as
money.
effective biohacks as in get for free.
Correct. And the other thing is training your gut. So that is one thing I didn't mention before. But training your gut in terms of when you eat and what you eat, again, that doesn't cost anything extra.
Correct.
But simply training
And
your
how you
gut
eat.
and how you eat, like you said, chewing.
Chewing, yeah.
But these are very, very important things which over a period of time, not even too long, 3 months makes an incredible difference in your life.
Yeah.
So I feel that the quality of biofeedback becomes more and more important if you are aiming for small incremental changes. So for example, an athlete would be very interested because the difference between winning and losing is 0.1 second.
Correct.
But for a regular person, when the stakes are not that high, you don't need to spend.
Correct.
Right? You don't need that quality of feedback. What you need is an overall feedback of are you going in the right direction?
Correct. Because the paths may be different, but everybody's going to become 60-year-old. Yeah. Everybody's going to become a 70-year-old, no matter how you've lived as an athlete or as a debauch. So what are these biohacks that is going to make that rest of your life more sensible? And so I'm going to come back to you. What do you think is the cheaper biohacks that a common man can do? I mean,
I think as we discussed earlier, like sleep, number one, right? Then movement.
Movement.
Movement is very important. Like I would not call it exercise, I will call it movement. Like move as much as possible.
Yeah.
And as you guys were discussing, right? Ki sitting for 10 hours at a straight doesn't make sense at all. Right? So you should move every, say, half an hour. After every your call, like if you're working in corporate, have a call for half an hour, stretch yourself, go and drink water, whatever, take a toilet break, right? So movement is important, sleep is important, eating the right things in a right way is important. And it's not like you have to take all the supplements as we discussed, right? So there are like thousands of supplements collagen for skincare and this and that. But I think 2, 3 are most important. And those also you can take in your regular diet. Like if you have time, you can like have sprouts in a real good fashion. Of course, it takes time to chew them, right? If you take sprouts in the morning, half an hour. But no, then of course go for whey protein or something like that, right? So those are basic things. And then comes the exercise. So I think in exercise, I feel the most important thing which people haven't understood really well till now, what I've felt in India is that people who are into running, they just go running, 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 right? So they are doing cardio, right? They are doing aerobic exercises. People who are into gym, they are just doing gym, weight training, not at all in cardio. उनको बोलो 10 मीटर दौड़ लो तो they will be finished, right? I think the future of this and what we need to take up is hybrid fitness.
Yeah.
So hybrid fitness is the combination of endurance, aerobic thing, and the strength. Endurance plus strength is going to be the future, and a lot of people you see today in Western countries are talking about it.
I think one of the biggest takeaways that I've heard in this conversation from you is the fact that movement is such an important thing, which is the best form of keeping you. Like, I'm sure all of you all have seen paintings of these women in Rajasthan when they are walking with a matka on their head in the desert and the camel. You'll see how straight and erect and lean and powerful they look.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you had said is our lifestyle does not allow us to maintain that sort of a posture through the day because earlier on our grandparents didn't have dining tables. It doesn't matter how old you are, वो ज़मीन पे बैठ के खाना था. You have to get up from the food and then go, and then the toilets were not Western toilets. Yeah. You have to hunch down and then, do your duty. So those movements by itself was an integral part of their biohack, am I right?
Absolutely.
Which we don't do. We are so lazy even to sit down. One of the things that everybody hears a lot nowadays, Dr. Sid, is brain fog after the COVID era.
Yeah.
And the vaccines, people are complaining, youngsters especially, saying there's brain fog, where you can't suddenly remember names or think clearly, or it seems like thoughts are getting in your way.
Correct.
How true is that, or is that something to worry about?
Brain fog is a phenomenon that happens when you are not able to think clearly. There are many things that contribute to it.
Okay.
So it's not correct to say that COVID has caused it. I believe that many things happened during that one time. Everybody spent 2 years at home. The level of stimulation that they had from screens drastically increased.
Correct.
The level of natural exposure that they had drastically reduced. Sunlight exposure reduced, going out reduced, meeting other people reduced. So these are things that the brain uses to keep itself active. When suddenly all that changed, the way that we think changed. And part of it was also that a lot of people got COVID, generally inflammation levels went up. The vaccine may have played a part in it, but you cannot say that that's what caused brain fog. Because even today, people are coming with brain fog. And I believe that one of the main reasons is what we discussed earlier, which is the speed of life. When so many things are going on at the same time, we are not able to retain information long enough to memorize it, remember it.
How do you solve that? I mean, I understand that, but
Yeah. So the solution is partly slowing down. And so there in your body, there's an autonomic nervous system. That is the most primitive neurological system. It keeps your heartbeat going, your respiration going.
Oh, I kind of figure out what you're saying now.
Now, so autonomic system has two sides. There is a sympathetic side and there's a parasympathetic side. The more calmer you are, the more in parasympathetic you are. The more stressed out, anxious you are, the more in sympathetic you are. If you are in chronic sympathetic state, that is what causes brain fog.
Okay, so
Because it's too much going on.
So in simple words, what I want to say, what Dr. Sid is saying is, earlier on, we were not stimulated to a great extent and a minute-to-minute basis. You're looking at Instagram Reels, you're looking at news, you're looking at people. Your ability to interact with people after COVID has reduced, so you get social anxiety. Sorry, let me say that again. Social anxiety, which is another word that we've come up with. But just the ability to meet new people and have fresh conversations is becoming more and more difficult because you're getting that stimulation from the screens and from stuff. Am I right?
Absolutely.
I should write a book. I'm so lucid with what I'm saying, man.
Brilliant. Yes.
Sorry. I'm just. But that's exactly what I understood. Exactly what you're saying, which is correct. And then the more you're on the sympathetic side, where it is hyperactive to a great extent, your ability to retain becomes lesser. So going back to what you said earlier, is slowing down is going to make a lot of difference in helping with the brain fog as well.
Yes, because forming a new memory is a time-dependent thing.
Correct.
So you have to allow a fact to remain in your working memory for at least 4 to 5 seconds for it to get transferred to your long-term memory.
So, simple question. One doesn't have to worry about brain fog.
You have to worry about it to the extent that you have to know why are you in so much of sympathetic state.
So, you have to worry about the cause of the brain fog.
Correct. But not the brain fog itself because it is treatable.
It's treatable. That's all.
Yes.
समझ गए ना भैया? It is treatable.
हाँ, ठीक हो
Brain
जाओगे.
fog will go away. ठीक हो जाएगा. If you live a better lifestyle, if you know how to biohack. Coming back to that, if biohacking works and we are feeling like 40 at the age of 70, should we push back retirement?
I do feel so. I think it will be very, very important to start thinking about the retirement age. Probably it won't be 60 anymore. It should be somewhere around 70 or even 75, 80. Depends. Like even I feel not just biohacking. Sometimes I feel if we can even modify DNA, right? And what if people like human can live for 130 or 150 normally, right? So that possibility is definitely there. Yeah, because of even the advancement of the AI, right? It is like earlier, say 5 scientists were working on this research, but now with AI, it's like 5 million scientists are going to work on this.
Correct.
Yeah.
So who knows, like, and if that is like 100 plus age, then definitely you have to do that. I think you have to shift all the bars. Even I was thinking like maybe your student life will not be just till say 18 or 20. It should be maybe 30, 35. And then
Yes.
your work life has to extend. And over there, probably you have to then reduce your the speed of burnout, right? So in corporate world, we say like I'm feeling burnout as an employee, as a founder. Even in like 4 or 5 years, you start saying I feel burnout, right? So that doesn't make sense at all in that future world, I guess.
Yeah.
The concept of retirement itself was created at a time when people thought that somebody's functionality gets over
Yeah.
by the age of 45, 50.
Yeah.
If that's not true anymore, then retirement becomes it's not a relevant topic anymore, especially if you're not working for somebody else. You're working for
That is
yourself.
when I'm coming to. So retirement starts assuming a lot of importance because the significance of retirement
Yeah.
has to be redefined.
Yeah.
So like you said, productivity comes down after 60 is what you assume.
Yeah.
Then you are letting people go at the age of 60 and they're also thinking they're retiring from life.
Right.
But right now, most, like earlier on, billionaires have become billionaires at the age of 70.
Yeah.
You know, the latest internet sensation, these ladies, they're making crores of rupees by teaching how to cook, and they're internet sensation and the most, lucrative earners on YouTube. And they're at 55 or 60 and, feeling invigorated enough to live for another 30 years doing the same thing.
Right.
So I think that when you define retirement as a point in your life, the significance of it has to change, which means companies have to make policies that make a retirement age of a different number, for instance. But more importantly, what we were discussing the other time is the insurance factor and the fact that do these companies need to invest in biohacking, or is it more important for them to invest in insurances, which is also as important? But, should there be incentives for people who are physically fit in company?
I think that's a good approach to try out because it is gamification of health at some level.
Correct.
That if I have completed 10,000 steps every day for the next 1 year, then maybe my insurance premium reduces. Now that is one way of incentivizing good behavior. And why not? It's a
No, but
noble
then
cause.
they get the medical report, so they know whether it's actually having an effect or not.
Right.
But I'm saying should lifestyle and biohacking also be a part? Like if there are gadgets that tell you how long this person has slept,
Yeah.
and or how long.
Here, I think I can contribute from the perspective of the business, right? So, like in Healthify itself, we are serving so many corporate clients which have like lakhs of employees, right? And what we ask them, hey, like we should run some engagement program like step challenge and other things, and then whatever device they are using, we can see the data which you are saying, right? Sleep data, their eating habits, their movement, right? And we can then incentivize these employees on these data points. And that is already happening, right? And it is very, very important. And now I think it has to be included in the insurance. That will be the second step where some
Oh, very interesting, huh?
new age insurance companies are already doing that, right?
Really?
Yeah. So they have started including these number of steps and they have started giving some bonus points to their clients on this, which you can use in various ways like shopping and other things, right? So that's already happening. So
This
definitely.
raises a very interesting question, doesn't it? Which is the health of a person. When does it translate into health of a company? Because how much can a company play a role in what somebody does in their personal time?
Yeah.
And how much should that affect the company's decision making?
Correct, which comes to the very important question, which is the next one, which is what is the correct work-life balance?
Exactly.
Because, some people, the career is very important. For some people, the family is very important. For some people, like I remember my son coming and telling me, like, Bapa, when he was 6 years old, he said, you're not spending any quality time with me. So I had to tell him, listen, son, I don't know where you're getting this, but if you expect me to come and play baseball with you when you are having a school baseball meet, then I'm not that kind of father, because we don't even know what baseball is in this country. But that's where you've learned it from, that Western concept of what quality time is.
Right.
But I said, do you see my father there? He said, I love him. I told him, I said, I love him more than my life. I'll do anything for him. But he never spent any quality time. He whacked me. He did what he had to do. But I love him dearly. And you can see it in my day-to-day life. So maybe I won't fit into your Western concept of what an ideal father is and what the work-life balance is. But if you're ever in trouble, if you ever need anything, if you just look at me, I'll be there for you. I'll make sure that like I remember one of my dentists told me a thing that his father told me, which I'll never forget. He said, if you make a mistake as a father, I will get angry at you. I'll get upset at you. But I will always be on your side. I will not be on your opponent's side. I will, with my wisdom, be able to try and solve the problem for you. So tell me. But the thing is, how does one define what work-life balance is for me? For me, being there for my son at a time was important. But if I'm shooting and that's my job and I'm not able to spend quality time that is defined as quality by Western civilization, that does not work well with me. It didn't work with my dad, but I don't think he failed as a father at all. In fact, he was a spectacular father. And I hope to be the same. So I just want to know.
There is an interesting concept, which is the brain doesn't really know what is work and what is rest.
There you go. What an important line.
Right. So I was reading about this after the whole Narayan Murthy thing about everybody should be working 72 hours in a week. And there is a very key difference between him working that much and his employees working that much, because for him, it's his baby.
Correct.
It's his company. So when I'm working in my own hospital, I'll be there 24/7.
Correct.
But I am doing something which I
Stimulating.
identify with.
Yeah.
It's for me, it is my thing. Then it's not work. I can do this all day and my brain would not go into sympathetic. My brain would still be calm. But if I'm doing the same thing for somebody else, and if I feel that my time is being taken away, that becomes stress.
Very important.
So
Very
there is
well
a
said.
difference, because it's not really about work or not work. It is about stress and no stress.
Okay.
Are you in sympathetic? Are you stressed out? Then it's a problem. Then it takes a toll on your body. Otherwise, do it. No problem.
So, what would you consider as?
So I think
That was very valuable insight.
Yeah, of course.
Because your brain doesn't know what is work and what is play.
Yeah, there I will add that also it is about like if you are working in your passion area and your strength.
Yeah.
Sometimes what you see is like people try to make people work on their weaknesses. I believe as a like the right way is to make people work on their strength.
I agree.
Right? That is what one should do.
Yeah, I'll
Like
give you an
that.
example for that. So when I first joined the industry, I was, my first film was a big hit. And then I realized that people were trying to make films with me that they thought will make me a bigger star.
Yeah.
You'll go to the BC Center if you wear these kind of clothes and if you do this kind of dancing. And then after 8 years in my life, I had this realization that that is not my strength. Like, Maddie, you're a public speaker, you're good at firing, you build your own helicopters, you are a skier, you do all those things. None of that was being shown as any of my character in the films, because everybody, according to their conditioning, was thinking, isko green pant pehnao, orange shirt pehnao, usko Switzerland mein dance karao, tab jaake usko acceptance hoga. But that I was trying to work on my weakness. I can't dance to save my life. I mean, if you look at half the dancers and the kids dancing in programs today, I don't even want to watch it because I feel so complexed. And then my directors come and say, Maddie, let's do a dance sequence. I'm like, are you out of your mind? Why are you making me work on my weakness? work on my strength.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me play a military role. Let me play a scientific role. I'm that kind of guy.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. I think it's very important
Exactly.
to put your best foot forward, work on your strengths,
Yeah.
than to lament about the
Yeah,
weakness.
and then you will enjoy, as he said, like your mind, your brain will not consider that as a work. You will start
Correct.
enjoying that.
I think it's very wise advice. That's very, very insightful because, if I'm going to spend half the time worrying about my weaknesses at this age, there is no way I'm going to enjoy my strengths. And therefore, that work-life balance goes to a toss because, like you said correctly, if I'm working on a script or if I'm working on a movie or if I'm working on how to tell a story, I don't know how time goes.
Exactly.
I'm not feeling hungry. Oh, that's another thing.
That's
I
flow
realized
state.
to me, I don't feel, because I'm not, however lean or fat I get, nobody can say that I'm malnutritioned. Because enough food in me to last a month if I have to not eat, right? So you don't feel hungry if your engagement level is high, which is a biohack.
Correct.
Eating and when you eat is very important, is what I'm saying, right? So that's also a biohack. But work-life balance, I think it should be left to the individual to understand how much he enjoys.
So work-life balance is not about finding the balance between work and home.
And it's not time related.
It's not time related. The balance is actually between sympathetic and parasympathetic. I would like people to start thinking of it that way. So for example, if somebody does not have a good family relationship,
Yeah,
they might be more stressed at home than at work.
at work,
And so for them, they will find themselves wishing to go back to work so that they have some peace of mind.
Right. Right.
Now that for them, the body will react differently. Their cortisol levels and stress levels are spiking at home and they are calm at work. So for them, work-life balance looks very different.
Yeah, what you said also makes a lot of sense. The reason for that work, if I'm working for my own self, my involvement factor is much higher, so I don't feel the stress of it.
Correct.
If I'm working for somebody else and it's not something that is engaging, it looks like a tedious job and you already got into the sympathetic mode even before you come to the office or go home. Very, very, very
And that is the key
insightful.
of biohacking, which is individual health.
Correct.
It is not universal. It is meant for you.
I think that summarizes basically what we are trying to say in this podcast is that, you're going to be overloaded with information. You're going to have so much of things that, and we already are. Every morning we hear, oh, coconut oil is good. Oh, it's not good. Oh, ghee is good. Oh, ghee is not good. Let's cook in olive oil. Oh, no, let's cook in. Oh, there's going to be so much information. I think, like both of our guests have said, if you just slow down, learn to understand what your body is telling you. If you're able to forcefully, which is in your hands, is get the right quality of sleep. Going to a party at night and spending as much time with your friends might be invigorating to a while, for a bit. But if you're not getting your stipulated hours of sleep, then your judgment is impaired. Okay, and that is something you can easily take care of. You're properly hydrated. You're already biohacking to make more biohacks possible.
Yeah.
You cannot just jump into a taekwondo ring just by reading about taekwondo, right? So simply, if you want to go into higher forms of biohacking, like meditation or physical movement or Pilates, yoga, everything, you have to start small to make sure at least you got your sleep and your food habits right, and your, you're hydrated and your movement and all these things, right?
So the way I think about it is weighted variables. So if say there are 10 variables that affect your health, not all of them have the same weight.
Correct.
So let's say that you are reading about, does creatine affect my thinking?
Correct.
Okay, so will taking creatine affect the way my brain works? Maybe it will affect your thinking as 1%, whereas sleep affects it 20%.
20%.
So if you are worrying about creatine and not sleeping, creatine will have no effect, right? So sleep, hydration, exercise, उसी से तुम्हारा 80% तक तो हो गया.
Correct. Which is what I think that's the best outcome of this podcast is every one of you is capable of doing the biohack that makes the rest of your life and a longer life, God willing, more effective, more healthy, and more meaningful. The small biohacks are in your hands. It's just the quality of your sleep, the quality of how you eat your food, when you eat it, and hydrating yourself, as said by our experts. So we want to include all of you all into thinking this is possible. You don't have to get overwhelmed with all the information that is coming in. You don't have to have thousands and thousands of dollars to lead a better lifestyle. Your work-life balance, like you said, is determined by how involved you are and how much of your brain is in the sympathetic as opposed to the parasympathetic area. And like you said, the entire ability to work for your own self, and when you're doing it, not feeling the exhaustion, can help you be in the parasympathetic state even more often. So that is a great takeaway from this podcast. So now I'm going to pick your brains and get into a rapid fire to understand your brains a little more. Okay, here we go. Dr. Sid, what's your most expensive biohacking purchase? Did it live up to the hype?
I would say yes. So I go scuba diving very regularly, and I got a scuba diving watch, a dive computer, which was almost 92,000, but absolutely lived up to the hype. I love it. So it has made every single dive better. So
Nice.
for that, yes, I'm very, very glad.
How about you?
Biohack me, I would say like the Garmin watch has always been my ally, right?
Yeah.
So I have used it for last 10 years. I always vouch for it. Amazing device.
Perfect. What health product under 1,000 rupees would you swear by?
Like I think whey protein.
Whey protein? It comes under 1,000 rupees?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I got a pull-up bar fitted in my house, and it answered a very simple question for me, which is, can I do a complete workout without any other equipment? And it turns out that if you do push-ups, pull-ups, and squats, nearly all the muscles in your body get exercised.
Yeah.
So for me, that was a big
Surya
one.
Namaskar, basically.
Surya Namaskar would do, yeah, pretty
Without
much
the
same.
pull-ups. Okay, great. If you could hack one part of your body or mind, what would it be?
So I've been working a lot on emotional regulation, and that has been very useful for me. So just learning to identify when an emotion comes up, and maybe this is true for men more than women, because I feel that men don't really know what emotion they're feeling. And it has really helped in my conversations, is understanding myself. So for me, journaling to help understand this has been a biohack.
So it's a mind hack.
Yes, it's
that
a mind
you would
hack.
invest in completely.
Yes.
Okay, how about you?
Mind hack again.
Mind hack, huh?
I think would love to be equanimous in all the situation. Equanimous, like staying same in like distress situation or in a very happy situation.
Yeah.
That will be like key for me.
What is the one biohack you will never recommend to anyone?
Then any extreme activity, like say cryotherapy, for example, right? You take your body to minus 40, minus 50 degrees Celsius.
Minus 110 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to see that like if you can bear that and what implication would there be if you have some medical condition.
Yeah, same. I think cryotherapy would be definitely something I wouldn't recommend for most people.
Really? Why is that?
I don't know if the benefit matches the risks.
Can I?
Of course.
Because I'm a huge fan of this.
Okay.
It's worked for me.
Okay.
So when I go for 3 minutes at minus 110 degrees and I'm 55 and I'm able to do it happily singing a song.
Yeah.
And I realize that I come back with my endorphins kicked in.
Right.
I feel the muscle tension gone completely. But there's a right way of having it instead of just dipping your entire body. So I cover my head. I make sure I'm wearing a mask so that it doesn't inhale the cold air.
Yeah.
I'm wearing socks so that it doesn't, have frostbite. But I have found it, if done correctly, to be extremely useful. But I agree with you that you will not recommend it to everybody blindly. Is biohacking just a modern term for saying, Dadi ke nuske?
It is coming out to be more and more like that.
Yeah.
Very honestly, because there is. So you know about the Lindy effect. It's a term that talks about how if a practice has stuck around for thousands of years, even if you don't fully understand the explanation behind why it works, let's assume it works for a reason.
No, so I think of course Dadi ke nuske is there, but there are few things which are coming anew and which are really helpful. For example, we haven't talked about CGMs, which became like so common, right? And CGM definitely, I would not say like you have to apply it all the time, but you should apply it at least once or twice.
You want to tell us
in your
what the
lifetime.
CGM means?
So CGM is basically continuous glucose
Monitoring.
where you put a device and it gives you data for next 14 days, where whatever you are eating, it will show you if your glucose index is spiking because of that.
Correct.
And by that, you get to know whatever your common things which you eat, if they are good for your body or not.
So Saurabh, I got to tell you, it changed my life. The CGM monitor
Nice.
really changed my life because, like you're saying, God willing, we can afford it. It's an expensive apparatus for not a lot of people can use it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But once you have it and you know, yaar, मैं ये खाता हूँ and my spike happens. और मैं ये खाता हूँ तो my sugar level actually comes down.
Right.
And रात को मेरा stable रहा. या, for you to be able to fine-tune your life becomes so much easier.
Yeah.
And so I think, that's not Dadi ke nuske,
Right.
very appropriately put, but it's definitely a very, very insightful technology right now. If you knew that you'd live to be 120, what would you do differently about your life right now?
For me, I think I will definitely spend more time on my physical and mental health. So as to be like living really good life and enjoying my life even at 90s and 100s. So that is what.
120 और 20 साल उसके बाद.
Exactly. 20 years, I think I can spend little lighter. But yeah, till 100, I want to be super active then.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. Because living till 120 and living till 120 healthy is a very different thing.
Correct.
Because you don't want to spend the last 30 years in bed or having being dependent on somebody. So taking care of your health then becomes top priority.
Truth or myth? The average biohacker spends over 30,000 rupees a month on supplements and health goals.
Very subjective because there are like
Average.
like we said, we can do it for much lesser or even for nothing.
Okay.
But yes, if you are investing in tracking, then I think around 10,000 a month you might end up spending.
So you're saying this is a myth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Myth, I think, for India for sure.
Yeah. 30,000 rupees not required
Of course
for
not. No. Very few people are spending that much. And especially, I believe or I will promote that people should spend more on their health and fitness, which is like a big pain point for me whenever I see my friends and everyone around, right, who are earning even like say 1 crore of salary package. And when they ask, okay, for the health coach, I have to spend 5,000 a month.
I agree.
5,000 should I spend or not? And when they go out for drink, right, we spend like 10,000 rupees like anything.
That's such an important
In a
point.
moment.
Huh? I think it's something to speculate about because that is true. Even as an actor, when I used to think, oh, मेरे को health coach लेना है, dietitian को लेना है, इसके लिए इतना खर्चा होगा, because it's a part of our conditioning, a very middle class conditioning कि इतना खर्चा करोगे. But we don't realize that you spend a lot more money in buying a most expensive car that is going to ride at the same speed in the traffic of Mumbai, which is going to make no difference. But spending that extra money on a biohack, on a health, and understanding that you're going to live much longer in your life. Exactly. I think that's a very brilliant point. Yeah, very, very important. And I think you have to wrap your head around the fact that you have to spend money on making yourself healthier in the years to come because you are going to live longer. Very important point. Okay, last question. Ever annoyed a friend or family with your obsession with health?
Oh yeah.
Yes?
Absolutely.
All the time?
All the time.
For me, yeah, of course, meaning for my parents, yeah, they were like what are you doing with your life? Like, after college, like when I was into job and one day I said, okay, I'm leaving the job after 9 months and I'm going into mountains to do adventure sports.
Yeah.
They were like, what?
But I am tired of this conversation. I go to a party or any place, तो only they, oh, कैसा weight lose किया, biohacking, ये, वो, फला. I'm like, कुछ और के बारे में हम नहीं बात कर सकते हैं क्या? I used to do that, and then I realized how horrible it is when somebody else does it to me.
Yeah.
So yes, I think it's important to have other conversations as well. Summing up this entire podcast, I just want to say that it's very individualistic. You have to listen to your body. You have to make sure it is you who decide what is a perfect work-life balance. And most importantly, biohacks are possible for the least amount of money or even free if you just know how to listen to your body. And for that, you need to slow down. Thanks, guys.